This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Aunt Jo dodged to the side, leaving a few afterimages behind. She dodged the sword light and floated up into the air. A large amount of dust surged up from below her body and condensed into a yellow dirt ball that was a few feet long and wide in front of her. It emitted a shocking wave of vital energy. Once it exploded, the entire courtyard would be destroyed. It's better for you to summon your puppet. Otherwise, with your cultivation level, let alone fighting with me, I'll crush you into pieces with a single move. Ninth Aunt's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. Humph. Yunxiao snorted. Do you still want to have a fair fight with me? Then what's with the divine sense that's locked onto me? I'm just reminding you out of goodwill, Aunt Jo said angrily. I don't want you to die unconvinced. Since you don't need it, you can go to hell. Dust Earth Technique, kill. The small ball in front of her spun rapidly, throwing out a large amount of dust, which formed tiny tornadoes and attached to the ball, as if they had more than a dozen braids. The surrounding space was thrown into chaos, and the rustling sound of sand being sifted came from all directions as the tornadoes pressed toward Yunxiao. Yunxiao had at least several ways to deal with the move in front of him, but he did not dare to use them because he had concerns. This was because Li Feiyu was standing beside him. He was very likely to be a formidable opponent in the two meetings. Furthermore, this person was known as the Four Prodigies of the North region. He was also very knowledgeable. If he were to recognize his moves, it would be extremely troublesome. The mortal world gazes at Ing Hao Yu. Die. Yunxiao shouted. The Northern Heaven Cold Star Sword appeared in his hand, and a powerful weapon charm fluctuated, colliding with the fluctuation produced by the small ball. Then, a sword beam flickered as the Thousand Expedition art was performed. That's a Swan Ni 9th grade profound armament. Aunt Jo was taken aback. At a glance, she saw the sword in Yunxiao's hand and immediately judged its grade. From the sword's light and color, she understood that it was a divine weapon made of Northern Heaven Cold Star iron. The two waves of energy overlapped and penetrated each other. The sword light followed closely behind and directly entered the small ball. In an instant, the small ball was split into two halves, and a large amount of dust scattered in the air. Under the misty atmosphere, the two halves exploded. Boom. As expected, the powerful force instantly annihilated the surroundings. The entire courtyard was covered in dust. The buildings and various decorations inside were instantly turned into powder and disappeared. Aunt Jo's attack was still too powerful. Yunxiao raised his sword to block it, and the aftermath broke through his sword momentum and shook his body. His body glowed with a golden light as he resisted the huge force, but he was still forced to retreat. Li Feiyu had already flown up into the sky. When he looked back, his heart trembled. He hurriedly wiped his eyes, thinking that he had seen wrongly. When he looked again, Yunxiao had returned to normal. Li Feiyu's heart was filled with suspicion. There was clearly a golden light just now, as if the other party had transformed, but the dust that was stirred up by the qi was too strong, so he didn't dare to confirm it. In order to probe Yunxiao's true strength, he had only had the strength of a martial grandmaster from the beginning to the end. But the sword just now had brought out the great power of a 9th-tier mystic artifact. Not only had it split open the domain of a martial honor, but it had also cut off 9th Aunt's dust attack, doing something completely impossible. And how did he withstand the aftermath of 9th Aunt's move? Was it the golden light just now? However, he couldn't see it clearly, which made him suspicious. Jade Shadow Chi swirling sword returning to Seoul. Yunxiao cried out softly, and a sword beam rose up from the dust. Although there was no domain, it presented a sea of sword chi that was not inferior to the domain at all. Although he was unable to pry into the core of the Thousand Expedition noble art, there was no one else in the world who had a better understanding of the way of the sword than him, so he could at least simulate 70 to 80% of it. Aunt Jo was also shocked. She could not believe that the other party could compete with her without using a puppet. But what was even more shocking was the 9th-tier Northern Heaven's Cold Star Sword. Even if she used a 9th-tier mystic weapon, it was extremely easy for her to be devoured by the weapon rhythm. How could the other party, who had a mere martial arts grandmaster cultivation, use it so casually? Stop! She suddenly shouted and raised her slender hand to point in the air. A finger light shot out and collided with the sword chi of the Thousand Expedition art. The power of the collision spread out, but she was shocked to find that she didn't have the upper hand. You said you'd fight and you said you'd stop. This may be the Plum Valley, but I'm not a member of the valley. Yunxiao was inexplicably angry, and he felt a little aggrieved. After his rebirth, he had been dealing with these minions that he would not even look at in the past. Furthermore, he had been suppressed and beaten by them at every turn, and they would scold him at will. An indescribable irritation welled up from the bottom of his heart. In the depths of his soul, the demonic dragon suddenly opened its eyes, which flickered with shock. Circles of black patterns began to appear on Yunxiao's skin, spreading from his body and covering his entire body. It was the sign of demonization from before. Gu Feiyang, wake up! Yunxiao! The demon dragon suddenly shouted. He had already sensed that something was wrong with Yunxiao. Wake up your sister! Yunxiao roared as rings of demonic energy burst out of the northern heaven's cold star sword, enveloping him in a black demonic energy. In the light of the sword, an extremely terrifying black aura flickered. Sword art star obliteration. The northern heaven cold star sword turned completely black. With a slash, the black demonic chi and the cold light of autumn water were faintly visible. The sky was split in half and the crack tore towards Aunt Zhou. This Tao Wu. Both Aunt Zhou and Li Feiyu were shocked by the strong demonic aura emanating from Yunxiao's body. Aunt Zhou, who was a martial honor, shuddered under the might of the sword. Fear gushed out from the bottom of her heart. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, how dare you act so atrociously in the Plum Valley? An explosion rang out in the air, coming from one of the divine senses that had locked onto Yunxiao. Suddenly, a golden beam fell from the sky and rushed into the black devil chi, producing a violent rumbling sound as if the sun had pierced through the night. A martial emperor of the 9th heaven realm appeared inside the devil chi, and with a gentle palm strike, he instantly destroyed the sword technique. The martial emperor's cold eyes were fixed on Yunxiao, like two sharp blades stabbing into his heart. Dang! A distant bell rang in his heart. The dynasty bell emitted rays of golden light that radiated onto his body and began to suppress the demonic chi. Yunxiao's heart trembled. He hurriedly calmed his mind and slowly eased his manic aura. Although he had not lost his mind just now, and his self-consciousness was still intact, he had been affected by the manic emotion, which was definitely not something that should have happened to him. As the power of the dynasty bell rang, the black patterns on his body gradually faded and returned to normal in the blink of an eye. Li Feiyu was dumbstruck. The might of that sword strike was no longer below that of a martial supreme. Even he felt a great threat, and the change in Yunxiao's body made him misunderstand it as some kind of powerful cultivation technique. His eyes began to show fear and solemnity. He originally thought that although the other party had some trump cards, he would definitely not be his match. But, after the sword attack just now, which was full of demonic energy, he had completely raised Yunxiao to the same level as himself, and he did not dare to underestimate him. You're so young, yet you've learned some crooked cultivation techniques. Do you think you can be so impudent everywhere? Today, I'll discipline you on behalf of your family. The martial emperor's killing intent rose, and the emperor's might of the 9 heavens rumbled down on Yunxiao. Yunxiao's face flickered slightly. These martial emperors were all self-righteous and liked to use their emperor chi to oppress others as if it was very enjoyable. He wished he could slap them away, but unfortunately, although he was not afraid of this kind of emperor chi, he could do nothing about it. Discipline young Master Yun? I've just arrived and I've already heard such an exciting thing. I really want to see who's the one who's spouting such crazy words. A cold voice came from the distance. The sky suddenly changed color, and a powerful pressure quickly flew over. Not good, someone has broken into the valley. Along with the panic-stricken voices in the Plum Valley, there were warriors who kept screaming. The martial emperor powerhouse was shocked and looked over in horror. Suddenly, the bright sky turned dark, and only the four poles shone with auroras that connected their heads and tails. A few golden symbols glowed in the sky, surrounding the four poles and the entire sky as a huge seal. Then, a move came crashing down. In the sky, a figure could be seen, but his face could not be seen clearly. He could only say, Heaven-Earth Seal. Not good. Ninth Ant, run. The martial emperor powerhouse was shocked to find that this move had used the entire sky and earth as a seal. There was almost no way to escape from the four corners. Everyone who was enveloped by this seal was locked by the powerful spatial power. They could not even move, let alone escape. Whether it was Aunt Jiu, Li Feiyu, or that martial sovereign, all of them trembled as they tried to block the attack with all their might. However, it was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Under the might of the heaven and earth, they were like ants and grasshoppers that could be crushed at any time. Boom. As the seal fell, it caused a shocking tremor. A person was sent flying from the ground into the 9 heavens, spurting blood along the way. As for Aunt Jiu and the others, they were not injured at all. The one who had been sent flying was the martial emperor. At the same time, a man appeared in the sky. He glanced around, then took a step forward and came to Yunxiao's side, saying anxiously, Young Master Yun, are you alright? He always felt that calling him Young Master Yun was very awkward. It was fine if he paid attention to it normally, but it was easy to slip up at critical moments. Fortunately, Yunxiao looked like a teenager, or it would have been even more difficult for him to change his mind. His supreme reverence for Gu Feiyang made him not dare to have any blasphemy. It was Mo Xiaochuan. Yunxiao shook his head slightly. I'm fine. Why are you here? He asked. Don't hit people for no reason, what if you kill someone? Mo Xiaochuan's face darkened and he said awkwardly, I'll pay more attention to this Kasaya in the future. I held back just now, so that person shouldn't have died, right? He raised his head and looked up at the sky, but the martial sovereign did not fall for a long time. Could it be that he was sent flying into the starry sky outside of this region? Don't talk nonsense. Yunxiao shouted. Do you think you're a peak martial emperor and can turn the world around and the day upside down? It's daytime now. There's no starry sky. I'm guessing it might have been sent flying to the sun, he said thoughtfully. Young Master Yun, we can't see the sun now. Mo Xiaochuan said. Yunxiao rolled his eyes at him. It's exactly because we can't see the sun that we can't see it after you sent him flying to the sun. That's reasonable. When Aunt Jiu and Li Feiyu heard the conversation between the two, they broke out in a cold sweat, but they were more shocked than shocked. Such a powerful martial sovereign was being lectured by Yunxiao like a servant, and he was showing undisguised respect and obedience to him. Apart from being shocked, Aunt Jiu looked around worriedly. The powerful cultivator who had been sent flying was one of the only 2 martial sovereigns in the Mei family. The other martial sovereign was hiding at the side and did not dare to come out. Not good, someone has broken into the valley. From afar, the cries were still coming, caught. They were caught. Hurry, and bring him to 9th Ant. Mo Xiaochuan's expression changed as he cried out, not good. I'm too fast, and Huayuan and the others are still behind me. Just as he was about to return to save them, he saw a group of people flying over from afar. They were the martial artists of the valley, and they had already captured Mei Dong, Mo Huayuan, and Little Xian. 9th Ant, we've already captured this group of people who trespassed the valley. There's also an expert who's missing, and it seems like Bayan is flying over here. The warrior reported with his head lowered and did not notice Mo Xiaochuan nearby. He sneaked a glance at the wolves around him and exclaimed in shock, Could it be that 9th Ant personally took action and suppressed that person? Aunt Jiu's face turned pale and she shouted, all of you shut up. Release everyone. Let him go, That martial artist was stunned for a moment, but he didn't dare to follow 9th Ant's order. He hurriedly asked his subordinates to release. Aunt Jiu's face was pale as she looked up at the sky. Deep in the sky, there seemed to be a figure falling. She suppressed the fear in her heart and braced herself to walk up to Mo Xiaochuan. She said respectfully, "The head of the Mei family greets Lord Martial Emperor. May I know what kind of grudge you have with the Plum Valley? Why did you barge in and even injure the people of the Plum Valley?" She was asking the obvious question now. It was obvious that this man had a close relationship with Yunxiao, and his strength was so heaven-defying. She was afraid that he would suffer a great loss today. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel bitter. Not only that, if his own courtyard was destroyed, there was no hope for that heavenly shine Keijin. Mo Xiaochuan mumbled, "It's nothing. I'm just playing around. In this world, the strong are respected, and I'm stronger. I can play however I want, right?" This Tao Wu. Aunt Jo was dumbfounded. She had thought that the other party would at least say something reasonable first, such as standing up for Yunxiao. She had even thought of a way to answer and was ready to counter the attack. But she did not expect that the other party would say such a rogue's words without caring about the demeanor of a powerful expert. "My lord, it's true that the strong are respected. However, there should at least be a reason in the world, right?" Mo Xiaochuan scoffed, "Logic? If you say the word reason to me again, I'll directly teach you the fist." The cold aura from his body immediately made Aunt Jo tremble. Her face turned pale and she gritted her teeth, not daring to speak the word reason anymore. The people around them all fainted, especially the group of people from the Plum Valley who had captured Mei Dong. They were all dumbfounded and finally understood the current situation. Hiss. Finally, a person fell from the sky and landed a few hundred meters away. A large amount of dust was stirred up, and the ground trembled slightly. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Aunt Jo's face was filled with anxiety. That was one of the two top masters of the Plum Valley. If he was killed, it would be a huge blow to the Plum Valley. However, she did not dare to leave with Mo Xiaochuan around. In the distance, a faint light flashed across the sky. Someone was carefully flying in that direction. It was the other martial emperor powerhouse who was hiding in the dark and did not dare to come out. Aunt Jo was slightly relieved. She braced herself and said to Mo Xiaochuan, "My lord, you're done playing now. When can you leave?" She didn't expect to get back at them or take revenge anymore. She just hoped that these people would leave as soon as possible. "That depends on my mood," Mo Xiaochuan replied. Li Feiyu also couldn't stand it any longer. He stepped forward and said, "Young Master Yun, this is a misunderstanding." Yunxiao had completely recovered from the demonized state and said indifferently, "Misunderstanding? What a big misunderstanding, I almost lost my life." Mo Xiaochuan's heart was filled with boundless anger when he heard that. When he thought of Yunxiao's near-death experience, the coldness in his body grew even stronger. "Young Master Yun, since the people of the Plum Valley dared to offend you like this, I don't think there's any need for them to exist anymore. Why don't we reduce the heavenly martial realm by one sect from now on?" Magnet. Aunt Jo sucked in a breath of cold air, her body turning cold as she looked at Li Feiyu with a pleading gaze. Now, he could only rely on Li Feiyu's face to see if he could salvage the situation. No wonder the other party dared to kill the young master of the Miaoxian sect so unscrupulously. He was not someone to be trifled with. Li Feiyu had no other choice. If he were facing Yunxiao, he could still talk to him, but Mo Xiaochuan's tyrannical strength and completely unreasonable appearance left him at a loss. He did not know where to start, so he could only say to Yunxiao, "Young Master Yun, as the saying goes, out of blows, friendship grows. It's just a misunderstanding. Besides, although the people from Plum Valley were strong, I don't think they were able to hurt young Master Yun. Why don't we have a peaceful talk? The Mei family has always stood aloof from worldly affairs and has no grudges with any other forces except for the Merchant Union. Young Master Yun, why do you have to force us?" "Even so," Yunxiao said, "let's forget about what happened just now. We'll pretend that it never happened." He looked at Mei Dong's dazed expression in the distance. She seemed to be in a daze as he said, "I will take full responsibility for the matter with the Miaoxian sect. When the time comes, your Plum Valley can just push all the responsibility onto me." However, I have to make things clear with my friend today. Aunt Jiao heaved a heavy sigh of relief and gave Li Feiyu a grateful look. Everything can be discussed. She had also discovered Mei Dong's existence. Her brows furrowed slightly, and she immediately ordered for a new banquet to be set up in a new courtyard. The same sumptuous meal, the same reception, but the atmosphere was different, making it seem very cold. "You're Huanhuan Wanbai's daughter?" Aunt Jiao asked, staring at Mei Dong. Mei Dong stood up and lowered her head. "That's right. Wanbai's daughter, Mei Dong, greets ninth aunt." Aunt Jiao's face turned cold and she snorted. "You're quite lucky to be able to live until now." "What do you mean?" Yunxiao frowned and asked. "What do you mean?" Mei Dong's face revealed a bitter expression as she said, "Let me say it. Dong was born with a body that was lacking in all 5 virtues. She shouldn't have lived past 10 years old." Yunxiao was surprised. 5 Zenkiki? There's actually such a flawed body in this world, but I can't see anything wrong with your condition. I don't know what's going on either. Perhaps he's already recovered? Mei Dong said. The 5 righteous Kei-chi is one of the few terminal diseases in the world. Even 9th-tier great alchemists can't cure it, so how can it be cured naturally? But it's a miracle that you're still alive. You were supposed to be punished along with your parents, but because of your body, my mother spared your life and expelled you from the Mei family. I didn't expect you to dare to come back. Anger appeared on Aunt Jiao's face as she said, "If it weren't for your mother's mistake back then, the Mei family wouldn't be in such a difficult situation today. Now, you've come out to cause trouble again. First, you offended the Miaoxian sect, and then you caused a ruckus in the Plum Valley with a group of people. You and your mother are truly the nemesis of the Mei family." Bang. A jade cup in Yunxiao's hand was crushed as he said coldly, "Ninth aunt, your words are really unpleasant. I'm only willing to sit here and listen to you blabber because of Dong. Do you think I'll give you face just because of your old face? If I hear any more words that make me uncomfortable, don't blame me for slapping your old face." Aunt Jiao was seething with anger, but she did not dare to do anything to Yunxiao. Her face was so dark that it looked like water was about to drip out. "Since everyone is sitting together, let's have a good chat. Don't fight." Li Feiyu hurriedly tried to smooth things over. "We should try to solve the problem in a harmonious manner and make everyone happy." Mei Dong said amiably, "When Granny took me away, there was also a will from my mother. I only found out about it when Granny passed away 5 years ago. I respect my mother's last wish and want to return to the Plum Valley. My mother's greatest wish is for me to return to the Plum Valley." "Impossible." Aunt Jiao said angrily, "Your mother has committed a heinous crime. It's already a great kindness that she didn't punish you as well. You still want to return to the Plum Valley? As long as I'm still the head of the Mei family, it's impossible." Yunxiao frowned. Ninth aunt's attitude is so strong. Did Mei Dong's mother really do something that angers both man and God? Even if he forced her to return, she would still be a hidden danger in the future. He couldn't help but ask, what exactly did Wanbai do back then to make ninth aunt hate her so much? "I'm not the only one who hates her," Aunt Jiao said through gritted teeth. "Everyone in the Plum Valley hates her to the bone." "Oh? I'd like to hear more details." Yunxiao's brows furrowed even more, as if he was in a very difficult situation. Aunt Jiao pondered for a while before she slowly said, "This is a core secret of the Mei family, but since young Master Yun has asked. As I said before, the members of the Mei family have a strong ability to identify treasures. 1/3 of it is due to our bloodline, 1/3 is due to our cultivation techniques, and the last 1/3 is due to the Wooding River." Everyone listened quietly and was very curious. They had never heard of the Wooding River. When Mei Dong heard this, she seemed to have thought of something, and her expression became strange.